For USCFootball.com, I'm Jack Smith, joined alongside Chris Treviño for instant analysis of USC's Tuesday practice. Chris, it is a very big rivalry week for the Trojans. Let's skip over the weather. What were your general thoughts from this really big week?
Well, we know it's rivalry week because of all the duct tape that's around campus. First sight going to practice is the Trojan sword. It's all duct tape up, and you saw some players kind of look at it. Brendan Rice kind of chuckled when he saw it. So we're getting to see that, guys getting familiar with what happens around here during UCLA week, and you saw all the camera crews out here. So that's how you know it's rivalry week officially, when all the media starts coming out. Very big media presence here today, very packed, very big scrums. So that's how you know. And then, just the energy that you felt at practice. I noticed it, especially in team warm-ups. It seemed like there was a higher level of energy, still a little bit loose, but everyone just seemed to have this focus. It just focused around what was coming up. They know that they have their own destiny. They control their own destiny. Thanks to Washington, they beat UCLA. They're in the Pac-12 championship. Win and get in. But this is a rivalry week. There are going to be extra emotions. There are going to be extra distractions going on, comments, bulletin board material going up. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But all these things going on, swirling around UCLA week. But it's a fun week, Jack, and get to go to the Rose Bowl. USC has not won back-to-back games in the Rose Bowl in several years, so it's going to be interesting. A lot going up against them. Two really big offenses. Will USC's defense show up? I don't know. We'll see, but a lot going on this week and very exciting game to cover.
Yeah, and of course, I think on the national scale, everyone recognizes the USC-UCLA rivalry, and tons of players and coaches and obviously media across the country know how big this rivalry is. But there's definitely some added wrinkles to this season's USC versus UCLA game, with it being Lincoln Riley's first matchup in the rivalry, crosstown rivalry, as well as all the transfers that USC's brought in. This is their first time to take on UCLA as a member of the USC Trojans. And as you mentioned, it's a win and go to the Pac-12 game for USC. There's so many little wrinkles that we can get into. Talking with players and coaches today, what were some of your biggest takeaways?
Right. The main thing was what's it like to play UCLA, and Lincoln Riley was obviously asked that in his media scrum. And, he talked about how he is familiar with big rivalries. They played a pretty big game over there in the Big 12 in Oklahoma versus Texas in the Red River Shootout. But that's more a state-to-state battle, and most rivalries are kind of a state-to-state. But here we got one that's inner-city, and that's how he said this one feels a little bit different, is that they're so close to each other. You can run into someone wearing a UCLA shirt, up the street, and that's what makes this one different. It's just the familiarity and the intimacy of it. They're so close together, and he said that's really kind of only the really big thing that he's noticed about it. And they've acknowledged with the players that, look, it's going to be different. This game is going to feel different. It's not Arizona State. It's not Cal. It's not one of those teams. This is UCLA. It obviously has a different feel. Even if one team is very bad, it still has the same feel. They took down some banners in the Rose Bowl. There's going to be a packed capacity. Got to get that out the way and acknowledge. Don't try to overlook that it's a rivalry game. But he's just kind of said that what they've been focusing on is just the things that are going to make them play better on Saturday, because that's really most important, is how you play, not how pumped up you can get, not how much you can trash talk in the media. It's about playing the game on the field on Saturday. So that's kind of what they need to focus on. Not necessarily that it's a rivalry, but they do acknowledge that it is UCLA.
Yeah, along the same lines, I talked with Mekhi Blackman, and he said even though there are some transfer players that are at USC for the first time, and this is their first USC-UCLA rivalry, they're very aware of what this means to USC. They didn't need to be taught up on the history of the rivalry. Obviously, Mekhi played UCLA at Colorado, and he's seen Pac-12 football for a while now. He knows how big this rivalry is. And Justin Dedich, I asked him, do you have to coach up some of these transfers, some of these younger players, about what the rivalry means? And he said it's kind of baked in this year, being that if USC wins, they go to the Pac-12 title game. These are two of the best USC and UCLA teams of recent memory, so it's kind of baked in. Like, this game means a lot just for USC's schedule in general, really no matter who they were playing. So yes, it's a big rivalry game, but it was kind of baked in. What's your thought about the fact that it's baked into the schedule for USC?
Right, and that helps some of the guys who, like you just said, who maybe aren't familiar, who are maybe from out of state or whatever, get hyped up a little bit more just for this game, because they know how important it is. If one team was like 4-8, it wouldn't make that much of a difference, but they have that importance already caked into it. And UCLA losing on Saturday to Arizona cost this a top 10 matchup, so would have been even more baked in, Jack. But yeah, I asked Calen Bullock kind of the same thing about, do you have to get these guys up for this game, or explain to them the rivalry? He said no, because they kind of know how important this game is. They know what it means for them and their season to be able to get to the championship, get to the Pac-12 championship, and complete kind of a full turnaround from last year's 4-8 season. A lot of guys remember that feeling. And I asked Calen about that, like, are you using last year's game? And he said, no, we're not focused on last year, which I thought was interesting because they were beat down bad. And, that's a feeling maybe you want to soak in a little bit to use for this game. But he said, no, they're not doing that. They're not really needing to hype up the rivalry to guys that weren't here last year. So, it is a process. And I think just the added importance of them getting a Pac-12 championship berth with the win helps that a lot.
UCLA quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson is clearly thinking about last year, just not about how much they beat him down, but he wants to do more. He wants to score 60-plus on the Trojans. He mentions, how much they hate USC. He was really going after the Trojans in his media interview yesterday. We asked a lot of the Trojan players, and they didn't get quite as in deep as DTR did. What were your thoughts about their responses to DTR's comments?
For the most part, none of them really took the bait. None of them, everyone kind of took the high road. A lot of people were like, yeah, we're not focusing on that. The one of the most was Calen Bullock when he was asked about that 60-point comment. Obviously, he's a defender, and that is his defense DTR was talking about. And he said, oh, he said that? And then he kind of laughed and kind of said, I didn't know he said that. And he said they're not worried about that. So that was kind of the one. And then Jordan Addison was asked about, DTR's comments, and he was like, He didn't really see that also, but he said, who wouldn't want to put 60 up on us? We're USC. Kind of like, yeah, we know people want to take us down. So that was kind of maybe the most bulletin board material that UCLA fans maybe got out of this group. But for the most part, they took the high road. I would not be shocked if all the coaches were like, don't you say anything in those comments. Do not give them more motivation. So interesting. But everyone was pretty much even-keeled. Nobody really said anything outlandish that's going to be a headline like DTR's comments.
Well, Justin Dedich mentioned that there were some things taped up in the USC locker room that had to do with the rivalry. I wonder if they're not already, if DTR's comments are going to be plastered there on the wall and Alex Grinch is going to be looking at the defense like, he wants to put up 60. Are we really going to let him put up 60 points? But you're right. I think they all did a good job, not taking the bait, not trying to match DTR's comments with comments of their own. The only funny one was Calen Bullock, and he did mention at the end of that talk, like, they're not going to put up 60 on us, which, you can say is maybe clapping back at DTR, but also at the same time, I don't think any defense thinks they're going to give up 60 points any given week. It takes a ton of offensive production to be able to put up 60 on a team. But we mentioned DTR. Of course, you have to talk about the UCLA quarterback having a fantastic year, and what Lincoln Riley feels like is his just a millionth year at the University of California, Los Angeles at UCLA. He mentioned playing him back when Kyler Murray was his quarterback, which he feels like is years ago. What did you think about, what Lincoln Riley had to say about DTR, and then again, just DTR as a player?
I kind of am still not over the fact that Lincoln Riley coached against DTR with Kyler Murray because, as Lincoln said, it feels like Kyler's been in the NFL so long, but they literally played off against each other, and he's played him twice, and he joked that, he felt like he was 15 the first time he played DTR, or DTR was 15 the first time Lincoln matched up with him at Oklahoma. So, we kind of just talked about how he saw him early on, and he saw how talented he was, and it's cool to see him now and how much he's grown. And, he said, I was there for the beginning, and I'm going to be there a little bit for the end in this game, kind of end of the season. But he had a lot of praise for him. He's having a really great season. He's probably one game's worth of production away from setting all new career highs and pretty much touchdowns, passing yardage, completion percentage. He has his best completion percentage of his career at 71%. And he's playing really well, and this is a guy that USC's defense really needs to key on. Maybe they'll use a spy because last year's DTR matchup did not go well. He ran all over them, and we know how dangerous he can be, and we know how USC's defense has struggled with these mobile quarterbacks. So that's going to be the key of the game, is how they handle DTR. And Calen Bullock said, when you watch the tape, he's comfortable back there. They have to make him uncomfortable, which is something we've talked about many times, but that is absolutely the key for this matchup, is getting DTR off his spot.
Yeah, for the first time, we've got some more injury reports as well, with Lincoln Riley making some comments about Mario Williams and Eric Gentry, as well as Jordan Addison speaking, I believe, for his first time since coming back from injury. What did you think in this kind of quasi-injury report mission?
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to know specifically about Eric Gentry and Mario Williams, kind of secondary, but Lincoln Riley did say that they are progressing, they are practicing, and hopefully they're going to get some reps on Saturday. I mean, I feel pretty good about Mario Williams suiting up. He was so close to playing against that Colorado game. Seems like the perfect game to bring him back is the UCLA game and what could be a high-powered shootout. Gentry you really need. He's going to be the one, I would deem him, questionable. It's going to be a game-time decision truly for him. So but at least they're practicing, at least they're progressing, and have to feel good about that super early in the week. And he said it's not an exact science. They're here for Tuesday morning practice. They have several days ahead before they can really evaluate. And what's going to be the key for them to see at a Eric Gentry to play is if he feels physically good, if he understands the game plan that they have for UCLA, like he can see it on in the film room and be like, okay, I know what my assignments are, and then just the competitiveness, because this is going to be a highly competitive game. But I don't think we're going to have to worry about Eric Gentry and his competitiveness. So those are the three things that Lincoln needs to see out of Eric Gentry for him to play. And then with Jordan Addison, it was his first time speaking since he's been injured, and he kind of said at the end, I'm back. And he kind of made a statement where it's like, he basically said, I'm going to show people that I'm back on Saturday. So it could be a big game for him, and they're going to need a big game from him and Caleb Williams to link up in what could be a very high-powered, offensive showing for these two teams. So great to have Jordan Addison back, and great to see his confidence back, him being, I'm healthy, I'm here. Said it felt great to catch that first ball in the Colorado game, just to feel the ball again, and, his parents were here. Great to show them that he's healthy, so he sounds ready to go.
Yeah, and Lincoln Riley mentioned last night on Trojans Live, he feels like he's closer to 100%. They got him about 20 snaps against Colorado, obviously caught the first play of the game. Didn't really catch anything after that, but he was open for a touchdown that Caleb Williams just missed him on. So his day would look a heck of a lot better with 6 points and a touchdown reception. So I feel like he's ready as well, and I think you're seeing the confident Jordan Addison that we saw at the beginning of the year before all this injury stuff kind of started to come out after that Utah game. Do you have any more thoughts before we wrap this one up and head on to tomorrow, the last media available practice before USC's rivalry game against UCLA?
Just a couple of notes. Just want a quick shout out to Latrell McCutcheon, the safety, who had a really nice day in the scout team offense. Had 3 interceptions, including a really nice one-handed catch where he just kind of came back and grabbed it. So really nice showing for him against the scout team offense. And then Tuasibi Nomura had a really nice interception over the middle. Those were kind of the things I noticed. So just wanted to shout out those guys.
Can you do that the one-handed interception again?
Yeah, I was like
that. We got Latrell McCutcheon, a.k.a. Odell Beckham Jr., a.k.a. Chris Treviño right here. But that's all we've got for you guys for Instant Analysis today. Big rivalry week for USC. Can't stress that enough. You can really feel the energy around USC, around the practice field. It's going to be a great game at the Rose Bowl. But that's all we've got for you guys today. We'll be back tomorrow for more Instant Analysis. Make sure you're checking out the website, uscfootball.com, for articles about today. Subscribe here on YouTube for all the different interviews that we had. It was a very big group with a lot of great Trojans. But that's all we've got for you guys. For Chris Treviño, I'm Jack Smith. This has been Instant Analysis. Check out uscfootball.com for more.